When working on your game, are you treating the problem or are you treating the symptoms of that problem? If you're treating symptoms, it doesn't matter what you try, you're not going to get any better. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a lesson with a student who came in hitting behind the ball too much, launching the ball too high with too much of a slice bias in his shots. Now, one of the big problems that golfers face when putting their swings on video is they see things that they hate about their swings that they want to have be different. But the things that jump out as being obvious to you, they're really not the problem at all. Very often, they're symptoms of a problem that exists somewhere else in the chain of action. So I hope you watch this video, hope you learn something about my process, what I'm attacking, what I'm trying to adjust, and how when we do that, the symptoms all of a sudden disappear. Let's dig in. Like I mentioned, that the stuff that you see on video as being problematic is usually never the problem, it's a symptom of the problem. And we see this club releasing early back here as this lead shoulder's going up too much. Well, the thing is that releasing the wrist angles early and driving the lead shoulder up, those are shallowing influences. And we need these shallowing influences because this club is approaching the ball on too steep of an angle of attack. So steep means down, shallow would mean, less down. So if we use this analogy of like a runway at the airport and an airplane coming in, if we're coming in too steep, well, we better shallow this thing out pretty quick, otherwise we're going to have a crash landing, right? So every golfer is trying to create a safe landing between the club and the ground, and you're intuitively releasing these angles and pitching the lead shoulder up to try and make sure that we don't take a huge bunch of dirt. So if we were coming in too shallow, well, then we would have the opportunity to steepen into the runway. So basically, when you only focus on symptoms, well, you don't get any better. So what we need to do is understand that at the top of your backswing, this club is on too steep of an angle. And as you transition, it's on too steep of an angle. And that's the reason that you're making this move, right? So if we can change the top and we can change where the club is coming from, well, a flatter or more on-plane swing is creating a shallower angle of attack. And if we have a shallower angle of attack, there's no reason to dump these angles, right? So you learned to release these angles early based on a prior pattern. So if we change the pattern, well, then you'll start to release those angles more on time, right? So if we think about your golf swing, your lead hand is your primary connection point to the club. So your lead shoulder would be the center of the circle, right? If your lead shoulder is the center of the circle, then below your shoulder would be the bottom of the circle. So the backswing is really trying to create some energy within the circle that we can apply to the golf ball. So we turn our body, we swing our arms, and of course we hinge our wrists. So if I were to take my setup to this little couch right here, and if I were to put this couch about the middle of my lead foot, right? Remember, there's some weight shift in golf, right? So I can make a backswing here. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking to create an inline condition between the shaft and my lead arm at the bottom of the circle, right here, which is beneath my shoulder, which has shifted a little bit more towards the middle of my shoe, right? So once we get you on a more reasonable plane, you could do some drills like this at home, where you set up like this, you swing back, and you try and deliver the entire shaft, right, to the couch, as opposed to being this way, right? So that means that we're delivering the club on time, which means we're delivering the energy in the correct spot relative to the arc, relative to where the ball is sitting. So because you're a good athlete, you produce a lot of speed, and you still hit the ball a reasonable distance, you could hit it a heck of a lot farther if the speed were applied to where the ball is versus where the ball is not. Right? So that's what we kind of need to start doing. So we're going to start off with changing the backswing a little bit, trying to give you a little bit more rotation out of this right hip, and trying to understand the posture our wrist has to be in to get this club more reasonable at the top, and then just see how we start to respond coming down. But right now, because we hardly have any hip turn, and the shaft is a little vertical, any rotation at all towards the target is going to have you too steep and too much out to in. So it's mostly a backswing issue. Just like firing a cannonball off of a ship, we have to start with a certain set of coordinates, and we have to see where the cannonball lands, right? And then if we land off the bow or we come up a little bit short, then we have to adjust the coordinates again. So I don't know how you're going to respond to the information until we start to apply it, but this is where you need to start and why. Okay? okay? Cool. So here are 2 drills that can be helpful in getting your arm structure and your wrist postures organized in the backswing. So we know that your trail arm tends to move too much back and behind this little seam on your shirt. And we want to keep our arms within the confines of our rib cage, right? So in front of those shirt seams. We also want to have a different posturing of our wrists at the top, where this lead wrist is flat, the trail wrist is bent, and we're using that wrist posture to set the plane of the swing while we feel a little bit of pressure against the middle knuckle of this trail hand index finger. So right there, no pressure, too light, too much pressure, too heavy, Goldilocks in the 3 bears, just right. So if I take my setup and I push my hands away from me, right in front of my shirt buttons, while I flatten my lead wrist and cock back my trail wrist, and I put the shaft on a 45-degree angle with a little bit of pressure between my elbows inside the confines of my rib cage, well, then I can just rotate to the top and I have the right wrist posture and arm structure. Right? So if I do it from this angle here, it'd be just like that. I turn my lead shoulder into my chin, and now I'm on that plane. So sometimes just having a little roadmap for how to get in that position would be really, really helpful. From here, what we're trying to do, like I said, your takeaway is great, but we need to change the wrist posture at the top, right? So from here, a little bit more to here, right? So that left shoulder's in the right spot now, a little more connection here, that looks great. So from here, if I were to put this like that, just go ahead and swing through and stay underneath that stick. Great. Okay, so come over here for a second. I just want to get you into this half backswing where I got you kind of lined up. I'm going to put that little stick across your left arm, and I just want you to hit a few balls literally that are going to land on this tee pad right here. This is like making a swing in your backyard. Yeah. Don't tell me you got 40 acres, right? So we go to the top, right? We're just going to go ahead and let the club fall and just try and hit it right there. You know, and learning is messy, like so. Yep. I don't care if you miss it right now. I really don't. I'm just trying to give you a feeling of a new pattern that we're going to develop throughout our day together. We're going to bump our belt buckle a little bit left. Good.
And when you say that, I'm just kind of shifting forward a little bit.
Exactly. So if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, right, you're not going to move your head. You're just going to move this lower center. Okay. So so you've got your lower center here, right? You got a middle center where my microphone is, upper center where your head is, right? We're just going to take the lower center and just bump it a little bit left of center, okay? So as we go back from here, right up the plane, we're going to pitch this shoulder down a little bit. That looks great. Right there, right? Just gently tap the ball. Nice job. What a stud, right? Really nice. Really nice. Let's do it again. So from here, a little different wrist posture. Let this hip go around a little bit. Shoulders down a little bit. Right, right about there. Same deal. Great job. Yeah, go for it. Nice job. And if we had the camera over here, we'd start seeing, right, the release more on time relative to the bottom of the arc, without even trying to do it. Right? So, you know, all the stuff we saw with the early release, that was predicated on where the club was coming from. Right? So if we change where it's coming from, you know, then the release can change without us having to try so hard. Right? So I'm gonna move the camera around. Let's see if that starts to look any different. Right, so here's our before. And look at the difference in your right arm position relative to your body. So your right arm is starting to drift behind the seam on your shirt, see that? So now, we saw how early this thing was starting to release. Let's see if it's just looking any different, right? I see it looks a lot different, doesn't it?
That's wild.
Looks a lot different, right? So there we have an inline condition way back here. But there's no ball back there, right? There's no ball back there. So that's where your club is moving the fastest, when it's in line. So we want the inline condition to occur more there.
Okay. It's awesome.
It is awesome. It is awesome.
Can't change.
It is awesome. Boom, right?
Yeah.
Totally awesome. So now, right, there's the swing center, right? And there's an inline condition happening more on the target side of the ball versus the non-target side of the ball.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you could spend your whole life trying to change that picture.
Yeah.
But if you never change the plane of the swing, it would just make you worse.
Yeah.
Because you would take too deep of a dip.
Sure.
So there you go. A pretty big change in a relatively short time here at the Academy, treating the real problem versus the symptoms of the problem. You know, nearly 90% of golfers are slicers, and this player was swinging on too steep of a swinging angle, which is something you might be struggling with as well. So hopefully by watching this video, you understand what you have to address and why, and how when you address the problem, the symptoms, they'll start to disappear. If you enjoyed this lesson, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, leave those comments below. Until next time, best of luck with your game.